mi pàtàkì. It's by the grace of God.
Hello, good evening, SC viewers. This is Satellite Media. Let us look at this plot to recall Senator Natasha from the Senate. We understand that those who are pushing for her recall have already submitted letter to Inec. Though before now, we understand that there was a court injunction restraining Inec from receiving such letter from those who want to recall her. But we are made to understand that Inec did actually receive the letter the other day. Inec is coming out to say the people who submitted the petition have not been able to fulfill some of their guidelines for recall. Because according to Inec, for you to recall someone, haven't gathered up to half of the signatories of those who registered in the constituency that is affected. You need to provide their address. You need to provide their phone numbers, because according to Inec, having submitted a petition, the next stage would have been for Inec to go and verify whether actually those claims in terms of the names, the signatures, the addresses they supplied, whether they are correct. Because you cannot just go somewhere, gather people, gather signature, and come to Inec to dump a petition. So I think Inec needed to verify whether those who actually endorse it, whether they are real members or from the constituency who actually are registered voters in that constituency. So I think INEC this time is trying to do the right thing by telling those who dropped the petition, or rather who submitted the petition, that from what we are seeing, that your petition is lacking, it have not met our guideline. Because INEC need to go and start verifying their phone numbers, their addresses, who they are, their names, whether they actually those who register in that constituency. But we are seeing a surprise video this time around, allegedly, reportedly, coming from that same constituency, of people who gathered in a room trying to form signatures of constituents for purpose of recalling the same lady. But just take a look at this video, how people allegedly, reportedly were signing, or rather, yes, signing signatures for her recall.
F5A 90, F5A 90, F5A FA EDE 29, 55, 24, 260. Okay, down there. Agnes.
So you are welcome back. Let us equally look at this other video. Of course, this is a triumphant entry of the same Senator Natasha into her constituency since this issue of her recall started. If you see this video, of course, you understand and agree with me that she have large support base in her constituency. Just take a look at the video. We'll come back to continue this conversation. So looking at this video, of course, I think it's a clear signal that the woman has large support base in the constituency. But again, I think nobody is above the law. If the people who want her record can genuinely, organically gather signatories of the constituents to the point of having up to 50% of those registered voters, I think the process will commence. But the situation where it has been alleged, reportedly alleged, that people are not following due process, of course, in what look like trying to rig the process. Some people are seen in a room trying to make us signature for the constituents. But if you are looking at the genesis of this, the whole issue, I think it all started from when the Senator Natasha had issue with the Senate president, though the Senate claimed that the reason she was suspended is because she breached the House rules. But she has since maintained that her suspension is because they want to suppress her voice, that this is purely against the women in politics, and that it is because of allegation of sexual harassment. But let me quickly say at this point that even when she was suspended, before that suspension, she came with a court order restraining the House Committee on Ethics and Privilege public petition from actually going ahead with the investigation. But in what looked like impunity, they have flouted the court order, went ahead, sat, and she was suspended. But surprisingly, the court later vacated the restraining order, claiming that it had been overtaken by events. But one would have thought that the right thing to do, having seen that some people flouted the order, the right thing to do was for the court to actually charge people who flouted the order for court contempt. But we didn't see that. Rather, we saw a court that went ahead to vacate the order that had been flouted. And the way it looked as if the court was intimidated by the Senate. Ordinarily, if somebody flouts your order, the right thing to do is to ask the person to come and explain why the person should flout the order. But that we didn't see. And as it stands, Natasha herself have gone beyond the shores of Nigeria to make her case known about the sexual harassment, about people trying to silence her, about intimidation and all that. And surprisingly, the issue of recall just came up. We understand that every political figure, whether at the level of Senate, House of Rep member, governor, name it, you must always have political enemy. So perhaps this is an opportunity for those who do not want that in the Senate to lash on and collaborate with the powers that be to see whether they can get her out of the way from the Senate, perhaps, and to get one of their own to represent that senatorial district. We understand that this woman fought through every obstacle to emerge victorious in that constituency as a senator. Of course, she was given that victory through the court. We understand what happened in her constituency during the election, how the state government in that Kogi will go and start excavating the road very close to the election as a way of trying to make it difficult for voters to actually exercise their franchise to vote for her. But in all of this, she triumphed at the end of the day because she stood and she conquered. But surprisingly, she is facing a very serious order in the Senate. This time, not for her constituency, but from the hallowed chamber of the National Assembly, particularly the Senate. And the way it is, one would have expected, because according to her, that she was expecting that when she submitted a petition against the Senate president, that her expectation is that both herself and the Senate president will submit themselves to the committee for investigation. That didn't happen, though the Senate claimed that the reason she was suspended is not because of her allegation, but rather because of her conduct at the floor of the National Assembly where she refused to go to a seat that was allocated to her. But let us equally look at the genesis of the whole thing, because according to the lady, she was relying on Order 10 to raise an issue, to raise an objection, or demanding to have some level of explanation. Because according to her, Order 10 has overriding power over every other consideration in that other book of the Senate. According to her, even if she's been dragged on the floor and she raised Order 10, the House leadership needed to listen to her. According to her, the best they could do is to allow her speak and perhaps rule her out of order. That didn't happen. She was not allowed to speak, hence she didn't listen to go to her newly assigned seat. But the way it is, we are equally following the trend, looking at how all this will pan out, because it looks as if the forces that want her out of the Senate is resolute and they are not leaving anything to chances. And no one can estimate or rather determine the next move. Hence, Inec have come out to say, you have not met our guideline. And good thing, Inec is coming up very boldly to say, you have not met our guideline. Because in a surprise move, nobody would have expected that Inec would be this transparent. We saw what transpired during the 2023 presidential election, needless going into all that. But for Inec to come out to say, you have not met our guideline, you must provide the phone numbers of those who have signed for a recall. You must provide the addresses of those who have signed for a recall. I think this time around, Inec is determined to do the right thing. Because if you must do anything, I think it's good you do it through the proper way. And this time around, the proper way is ensure that you get all the process to conform with the position of the law and to conform with the guideline of Inec. Because Inec is a creation of the Constitution, and Inec guideline regarding regulation of all their conduct as it has to do with election, as it has to do with recall, must be adhered to 100%. I think that was the basis for which most Nigerians questioned the outcome of 2023 presidential election. Because prior to the election, Inec came up with their guideline and asserted that they were going to transmit the election results electronically. And Nigerians held them for their word on that. But surprisingly, at the nick of time, Inec reneged and they gave excuse of network glitch. Though many Nigerians were dissatisfied with the excuse of network glitch, but as we have it, that is where we find ourselves today, because the Supreme Court has been ratified and declared Senator Ahmed Bola Tinubu as duly elected president of Nigeria. But however, seeing that Inec is bent on doing the right thing on this, I think we should for now commend Inec. Though it's not yet Uhuru, we are still watching and following to see how it panned out, because I understand that those who want her out will not leave anything to chance. They will continue to strive to see how they could achieve their aim. I'm not saying anybody is above record. That is not the point I'm making here. Because if for any reason those who want her out is able to organically, genuinely get 50% of the registered voters in that constituency to endorse her recall, I think it doesn't matter whether she has done the right thing or wrong thing. It implies that her people do not want her any longer, and the next line of action would have been for Inec to commence the process of verification, whether those who actually endorse it genuinely endorse it. But we equally heard a reported news that in the process of trying to get people to sign her endorsement record, that people were gathered under the guise of getting under the guise of getting dividends of democracy, empowerment and all that they were deceived, they were misled to endorse the document, believing that they were to give them dividends of democracy, empowerment, not knowing that they were actually endorsing the record of their representative in the Senate. But let us wait for Inec and see what their decision will be in this regard. Thank you very much. This is Satellite Media and I'm Mr. Martin.